Hey, what's going on YouTube? Thank you for coming back to another episode of Scattered Brilliancy. My name is Travis, and today we're going to be reviewing Love and Hip Hop Atlanta Season 5, Episode 2. So this episode picks up where the last one left off at. It's Mimi's coming out party that she was doing for her new boo, Christina. And just, to recap, got a lot of new characters on the show, so Scrap, just regular Scrap, is a new character. He has a baby mother by the name of Tierra, and he has a girlfriend named Tommy. Scrap's mama name is KK. KK told Tommy that she need to go check up on Scrap and Tierra because she feel like something going on. So Tommy done figured out a way to get Tierra in the same room, and so Tommy is now about to confront Tierra at Mimi's coming out party for her boo. You still with me? Cool. Ooh, this episode was interesting. All right, so Tierra shows up to the party. And Tommy told Scrap that he needed to tell Tierra what the deal was, and that, Tommy is now that she's a part of his life, and she just needed to tell him what the deal was. Scrap still ain't told her, so she's like, I'm gonna tell her. So Tommy starts asking Tierra a whole bunch of questions. Tierra, again lets us know that she works for this large financial firm and that she's the bottle girl, so she does that thing like 2 nights a week. So then Tommy asks her, where are your kids? And so Tierra kind of immediately is on the defense, like, why are you asking me all these questions about my kids? And eventually Tommy reveals herself to be Scrap's girlfriend, and they get in a fight. That's the main part. They get in a fight, and Mimi is upset because she feels like the night has been ruined. Now we're going to get back to Tommy at the end of this video, because I got to say that for last. Alright, so Rashida and Kirk, another catch up on them is that they're out of their old house from the past seasons. Their new house is still being built. So currently they're living in that Buckhead office that Kirk had with Ashley last season. Something seems up with that they're not just really in there because the other house is being built. But, for the sake of the show, that's where they're living in right now. Rashida, is catching Kirk up on about what happened when Mama D came to the office, and Kirk tells that he has a surveillance system and he watched everything happen, so he knows that he needs to go talk to Scrappy because he's like, how you gonna send your mom to come check me? There's an issue, you need to come talk to me, because they all consider each other to be family. All right, let's go back to Tierra. So I don't want to go to Tierra. Nah, we're gonna save Tierra we're gonna save the rest. We're gonna save them for later. All right, let's go back to Mimi. So, Mimi is at the house. She's packing her house up because she's about to move. She's there with Chris, her new boo, and Arian. And really the only thing that happened there was we find out, now Lord knows I ain't trying to offend nobody. We find out that Chris is a transgender guy. That's what we find out. So Chris does not consider himself, Chris does not consider himself a woman. Chris said that mentally and spiritually, I have to rewrap my mind around, because the whole video I did last time, I kept saying her, so now I think I'm supposed to say him. So Chris feels that mentally and spiritually he's a guy, but in a female vessel. He didn't make any reference to any kind of surgeries or anything, but pretty much he considers himself to be a man. So Arian was asking, also you're a lesbian now, and so they were saying no, she's not a lesbian because Chris is a guy. And so Mimi was like, well, Chris identifies as a guy and I'm a woman, so technically I'm not a lesbian. And we also find out that because Arian was giving them the third degree, asking a whole bunch of questions about their sexual life and all that kind of stuff, and Chris was seeming a little uncomfortable with it, but was figuring, I'll go with it because this is Mimi's best friend. And Mimi mentioned that Chris has these touch me not areas, and these are areas that Chris does not like to be touched, and Chris does not like to be touched in any areas that reminds him that he's actually a woman. Or, I think that was right. I think I said that correct. Listen, y'all, I don't understand any of this. I ain't gonna try to understand any of this. So I'm moving on. Alright, so Jock and Scrap. I feel like for the majority of the season, we're gonna end up seeing Jock and Scrap Jock and Scrappy. We're gonna end up seeing them together a whole lot. Seeing as how they have an apartment now, because last episode they were on the screen together. And this season, I mean this episode, it was a lot of that too. So Scrappy briefly is they're at some radio station. They're playing Jock's new song, and he briefly mentioned something about a girl named Betty. I didn't really catch it, and I didn't feel like rewinding. But we're gonna meet Betty later on in the episode. But Scrappy is trying to get Jock in on his modeling thing. You know, Scrappy always he said that he's looking for beautiful women that he can start getting into modeling, and he's not in it for the money. He's not in it for the honey. He's in it for the money. So that's what he's doing, and he wants Jock to come in and help him. Jock is skeptical because they both got track records, but I mean eventually Jock says he'll help him with it. So Scrappy ends up holding a modeling call for models for this modeling agency, I guess, that he's putting together. I don't know if he's trying to manage models. I think it's more of model management. I think what Scrappy is trying to go through. So while he's there, last episode we met Scrappy's new assistant, Taylor, and Jock is feeling Taylor. Jock didn't really get the go-ahead from Scrappy that he could talk to him, but Scrappy was like, I ain't trying to mix business with pleasure, and I don't need you to be doing that either. But Scrappy really wasn't listening, so Scrappy ends up giving his number to Taylor after he kind of, smooth talks her a little bit. While they're also there, Kirk comes because, he wants to take this opportunity to talk to Scrappy. And, he pretty much confronts Scrappy, like, what's up with your mama coming to the store? Mama D is there. And Scrappy is dumbfounded because he didn't know anything about this. He told his mom he didn't want her to talk to them and he was going to handle it himself. So Scrappy was like, I need you to know I did not send her. And Mama D just goes, oh, I can't breathe. Oh, I can't. So she starts getting real dramatic and Jock just escorts her out. And pretty much, Scrappy and Kirk go back and forth about the fact that Kirk and Rashida weren't there for him for the hearing because it has something to do with him getting Imani's, getting custody of her or something like that. And he was having to testify against Erica and they were supposed to be there to help him. But, Rashida and Erica are cool, so that was going to pose an issue. But Rashida was out there filming Rosewood, so they couldn't be there. And then Scrappy asked Kirk, did you even want to be there? And Kirk was like, no, I didn't want it. So Scrappy is like, okay, that's cool. You're dismissed. I don't need to deal with y'all. So pretty much that's how that ends. Seems like it could be the potential end of the Scrappy and Kirk and Rashida, family situation. All right, let me see. Do I want to go to her next? Yeah, we'll go to her next. All right, so now we're introduced to 2 more characters. I mean, goodness, we've already met like 4 or 5 last episode. Now we got 2 more. D. Smith. D. Smith is a model. She says something about the fact that she was in music and who she's worked with, but I'm not exactly sure what she does in music. But I think the main thing that she does is model. D. Smith is a transgendered woman. I believe pre-op. Yeah, because I think she's pre-op. She hasn't had anything done. But the scene was going back and forth between D. Smith and Tammy, so it was kind of confusing. So let me see if I can remember this. So on one end, Tammy, Rashida, and Mimi go to this fashion show. Then on the other end, D. Smith is walking in this fashion show, as well as Bambi, Scrappy's ex, is walking in this show as well. So Tammy is looking for models because I think Tammy has like a clothing line or something. So she's looking for models and, she's looking at the models in the show that D. Smith is in and she's liking some of them. And she just happens to see D. Smith. These coincidences are just crazy. She happens to see D. Smith and she's like, oh my gosh, I like her look. She's very Grace Jones thing, which is kind of like, is that offensive? They say Grace Jones looks like a man, but, whatever. So, she was like, I need to talk to her. I need to get her information, all that kind of stuff. That same night, we're also introduced to Betty Idol. I'm not really sure what Betty Idol does, but Betty Idol is introduced as D. Smith's friend. Betty Idol somehow or another brings up Tammy and Waka Flocka and talks about these comments that Waka Flocka made about Caitlyn Jenner that seemed to be offensive or deemed homophobic because they were about trans people or something like that. So Betty is just kind of giving D. Smith that rundown. I don't really remember why they started talking about that, but it ain't really important to the story. So then Tammy, I guess, somehow gets D. Smith's information and they meet up. And that is when Tammy finds out that D. Smith is transgender. You know, D. Smith brings up what Betty told her about hearing that Waka Flocka made these comments about Caitlyn. And Tammy was pretty much just trying to defend her husband, talking about they have a 10-year-old. And, you know, Waka's standpoint, because I don't know what comments he made. Waka's standpoint was that he felt the media was, I guess, maybe giving too much attention or something like that to Caitlyn Jenner, and just, you know, that might be too much for certain families who don't want to have that conversation right now, which I totally get. But, you know, on the other hand, D. Smith is like, but, you know, you need to expose your children. You know, it's your responsibility to teach your children, yada, yada, yada. They both have valid points. But D. Smith did make it known that what Waka said was irresponsible. Tammy still wants to work with her, but D. Smith feels like, you know, it's something I gotta think about. So then later in the episode, the very end of the episode, we meet up with Tammy, D. Smith, and Betty. So the reason why we meet up with these three is because now that D. Smith knows that Tammy is looking for models, D. Smith knows that Betty models and wants Betty to meet Tammy. I mean, we all know this is orchestrated by the production, but that's just the storyline we're gonna go with to make everything work. Betty, side note, is real extra. Real extra. And she almost talks like this. Almost like her mouth isn't open, and it's real extra and stuff like that. And I feel like it's going to get on my nerves by the end of the season. So they immediately start going back and forth talking about Waka and his comments. D. Smith is trying to deflect, talking about she wants some new titties, but it ain't working. And eventually Tammy picks up her drink and proceeds to try to hit her. And that's where the episode ends. So we know that next episode is going to pick up with a fight. Now let's get to the King family, Tommy and all of them. Karen King, has made it known that she is Team Tommy. Tommy, for those who don't remember, is the girlfriend, all right? She gives Tommy the rundown on why she doesn't like the baby mama Tierra, and that's because I saw people pass around the article, something about all three, Karen King and her two sons, Scrap, DeLeon, and Sass, were arrested because it said like KK tried to murder Sass's dad or something like that. So they all went to jail. But the two sons went to jail first, but the mom was on the run, and she feels like Tierra ratted her out to the police. And she just kept talking about that she did voodoo on her. So I'm like, okay, this is about to be a thing this season. We're about to be talking about voodoo and all that kind of stuff. So that's the reason why KK doesn't like Tierra. And pretty much, y'all, at the end of the day, I have come to the conclusion, KK is crazy. That's probably what the K stands for. Crazy Karen. Crazy Karen with a K. That's gotta be. She real extra, real crazy. Alright, now let's go back to the most interesting parts of the evening. Alright, so like I said earlier at the party, Tierra and Tommy get in the fight. Cool? Alright, so now we're going back to Tierra. Tierra spent time at urgent care, and she doesn't really understand why Scrap even is dealing with anybody like Tommy, because Tommy got 32 mugshots. You know, she lets us know that that's how many mugshots Tommy has. So we go into the studio, and Scrap, DeLeon, and his brother in it, they just laying down I'm a dog, I'm a dog, I'm a dog, I'm a dog. Boy, what? I'm not an English major, but that is... It's not a hyperbole, it's not an oxymoron, but it's very telling of where this story is going. The fact that you're in there singing a song about the fact that you're a dog, okay? We're just gonna stay right there. So she goes in there to talk to him. My notes went away, hold on. So she goes in there to talk to him. We're gonna call him Pippi Longstockings because he had two pigtails, but you know, whatever. Her wrist is messed up, and it looks like she has a broken finger, so clearly they must have really gotten into it at this fight. But she confronts him with her good hand because one of her hands was handicapped. So she had to hit him with the one good hand that she had. So she's hitting him, asking him, you know, how's this girl going to come and confront me? You know, what's up with that? And because you let that girl come do whatever she did, you're not going to be able to see your son. Are you trying to talk to me? Okay, I can tell. So Tierra is telling Scrap that he is not going to see his son until he handles the situation with Tommy. So here we go, a classic situation where a woman is going to dangle a child in front of a man until he does what she needs him to do. Women, y'all can't do that. Y'all can't use the children as pawns. He still got to see his child. No matter what kind of issues you got with other women, you can't use a child as a pawn. But you know, for the sake of VH1, we're going to go with it. All right. Okay, so Scrap makes this stupid act. I almost cursed. He makes a stupid comment that said, and I don't remember if he was talking about Tommy or if he was talking about Tierra. I think he's talking about Tierra. He said, what she didn't know wasn't hurting her or me. What she didn't know wasn't hurting her or me. He may have been talking about Tommy, but that quote that stuck with me, because I truly believe deep down in my spirit that is a quote that many guys live by. What you don't know, you women, what you don't know is not going to hurt you. So that is the logical reason why they're going to continue to do mess. Here he is. If he's not rapping the song, he's helping produce a song called I'm a Dog. And he's talking about what you don't know won't hurt you. Dang, that's it. That says a lot. But he says more later. Just let me get to it. All right, so Scrap knows that he has to fix the situation. He knows he has to see his son, and the only way he's going to be able to see his son is if he smooth things over with Tommy. So Scrap goes to visit old Tommy. Pippi goes to visit old Tommy. He says he brings flowers. Tommy really ain't feeling the fact that he brought flowers. Talks about he got his baby mama fighting her at the club, and that's the issue. So she starts throwing the flowers. She starts picking the flowers. She starts throwing them and stuff. She's throwing the flowers. And I don't remember what she said, but he says, you seem like you need some time. And I'm going to give you time. I'm going to give you some space. I'm going to let you calm down. So you just call me when you're ready. So she was like going off and stuff. And she was like, well, let me walk you to the door because me and my wife had to stop and rewind the daggone show because you was just going off. How you just start crying out of nowhere? And then she hit one of those New York inner cries. Y'all watched the Next 15 when New York was crying, and she said, it's an inner cry, I'm crying on the inside. Because Claudia said, why can't you ain't got no tears? She said, it's an inner cry, I'm crying on the inside. That had to be what Tommy was doing. She had to be hitting that inner cry because she had a straight face. She had an up northern, because she ain't from Atlanta. You can tell she's from up north somewhere. She was hitting them with all of this, like Baltimore, New York, and then, well, let me walk you to the door because not a wet area. Not one single wet area. She was hitting him with that inner cry. And he consoled her in that inner cry. What is this? That is really where I took a moment. I said, is this show something I really need to watch? Because these stunts and shows they pulling early in the season is just, it's too much. It's too much. So, she hits her inner cry. And she asked him again. She asked him last episode, are you still sleeping with your baby mama? And last episode he said no. She asked him again, and he good for him. He says yes. He feel like he gonna take the loss, take the L, and maybe he'll get some points for being honest. These are things that confuse me. People's logic is like, I'm gonna take this one moment to be honest. Why not try to be honest all the time, and you ain't ever gotta worry about situations like this? So he says yes, and her eyes get big. And she's like, and I think she hits her inner cry again. I'm not really sure. So he starts blaming her, Scrap Pippi Longstock, and starts blaming Tommy for him not having or not being able to see his child. Y'all tell me how much sense it makes for me as a man to blame my girlfriend for me not being able to see my child because I've been sleeping with both my baby mama and my girlfriend, but it's my girlfriend's fault because she said something. Or you was a bad girl because you said something. Y'all let me know what y'all know what that's from. So Tommy says one of the stupid things that a lot of y'all women say, I don't want to get back there making all that noise. She says, I don't want to give up on this year and a half that we got, so, I'm going to fight for this and all that other kind of stuff. That's one of the most dumb things I ever heard. How dare you say that because you put in a year and a half of time with somebody, that means you're just supposed to put up with all the mess that they put you through. That is the most hood, stupid logic I've ever heard in my life. To say, because of the number of days that I have spent with you and the amount of time I've wasted loving you, that somehow makes it okay for you to put me through even more drama than I would have had to go through had I left your stinking tail when I first realized you was a dog. I'm a dog. I'm a dog. Okay. And then this is the kicker right here. She asks him, do you love me? And this fool says, I mean, why you asking me that? You asked me that last time. I mean, you know, that shouldn't even be something I gotta say. You should just let my actions speak for it. He said, let his actions speak for himself. Meaning you don't have to ask me, do I love you? Let my feelings tell you whether I love you or not. And daggone it, if Tommy can't realize that this Negro is telling you plain as day, he don't love you. If he's cheating, lying, those are his actions. And I feel like I'm spitting all over the camera. I might be. If those actions don't tell you anything else, they should tell you his black tail don't love you. Oh, you. Some of y'all have all the answers here. All the answers right in front of your face. And with contact lenses and glasses on, you still can't see the situation that you're in. But I know this is all for a VH1 check, so I ain't too upset about it. But that's all I got for this episode. Y'all make sure y'all like, rate, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all sometime soon. Peace!